Phil Harris and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible fortnightly podcast, Dream Big, Move Fast.
A progressive, contemporary conversation on what it takes to be a dynamic thinker, leader, and role model.
Backed with over 2 decades of friendship, trials and tribulations, they teach from real-world experience and what it takes to dream big, move fast.
You can choose courage or you can choose comfort. You cannot choose both. Brené Brown. Phil, what are your thoughts on this to kick off today's conversation?
It's a really great quote, and it's one that I would lean into a lot in relation to how I want to raise my kids. That's what it reminds me of just teaching my children that, life is definitely not easy. And on the other side of comfort, if you're not comfortable, you're in a good space if you want to actually progress and move forward.
And what's the old school saying? Chop wood, carry water.
Haven't heard that, but good one.
So like literally just chop wood, carry water. It doesn't matter how awesome you are, still got to chop wood, carry water. And that's a really important foundational piece. Today is all about big decisions. And Phil, I love this because, one of the things that I was thinking a little bit about is about this whole thing about what we got to call opportunity. And I'm not sure, you would have seen it many times, but how many times do you see the great salesman who comes in front of you and says, "Hey, Phil, I have got this big opportunity for you." And I remember this. I was in a position, I was working with a guy named Paul Breen, and Paul was very, very successful in setting up supermarkets down in Melbourne. And one day, I remember somebody had come by my way and, someone I think in the very, very early days of starting the company wanted to buy us out. And I rang up Paul and I said, "Oh, mate, it's the first time this has ever happened." And someone's rang me and they said they want to buy me out. And he's like, "Oh, wow. What did they say to you?" I said, "Oh, they've got this big opportunity of what they want to do. And I just got to see the opportunity for what it is." And he stopped me in my tracks and he goes, "Man, whenever anyone says that they've got a big opportunity for you," I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I want you to replace it with these following words. When they say they've got a big opportunity for you, what it means is that they've got a huge problem that they think that they can fix cheaply by getting you to come and do that." And it just made me think very, very differently about the salesman and the approach.
The big opportunity reminds me maybe 20 years ago when Amway was really
yes, yeah.
And someone rings and says, "Oh, I've got this really big opportunity." "Well, what is it?" "No, I can't tell you. Just get 3 of your friends together and I'm gonna let me share it with you."
And Phil, you'd be so good at it. You meet so many people in the lounge rooms at the listing lounge room table. But this is interesting about like how do you make the big decisions, Phil? And I think that this is the thing is that do people put themselves in the position of having to make big decisions enough in order to be able to go and achieve their wildest dreams and to be wildly successful in business and personally and all of those things?
I would say when I relate it to Harris Real Estate, when there were big decisions that were made, I'd say that, after, 15 years of kind of trial and error, I'd say in the early days, the decision-making process for me was basically on my gut feeling.
Yes.
And that's when a lot of not a lot, but there's some significant bad decisions were made.
Sure.
Based on gut feeling. And I think that the progression of myself as an individual and also as the company, I would say that there's more of a big decision-making matrix now, if that makes sense. So there's a structure. So now big decisions, and we could go in various tangents here, but I'll talk more about real estate, right? How do I make big decisions in my life, in my personal life? It's different how I make decisions in my business life. But in my business life now, big decisions will be made on, okay, let's put an example on the table. A big decision, opportunity. I've got a big opportunity is to buy a rent roll, as an example, right?
So how do you make those decisions?
Yeah. So there would be a filtration process for that first, which I would happily go and do by myself. I don't need to consult with anybody else. I can think logically, is the office in the right spot? Is it the right people? There's some basic things I got to get through to go tick, 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 or straight away, wrong culture, wrong location. Like it's not even on the table. But let's say it gets through that process.
Yeah.
And I go, you know what, this is a serious opportunity. Well, from there, then I would be taking that back to kind of the first vetting process would be back to our exec team with our CEO and head of ops and head of sales. What do we think about this? If we get past that process, then it would become to a board level where it would be thrashed around.
Sure.
And at a board level, that's when you'd have actual proper tools that come in place. There'd be like a financial matrix would be run across it. There'd be some other things that we would kick around. Does it financially actually stack up inside a spreadsheet? Mm-hmm. What's the cultural downside? What's the cultural upside? So there's actually more of a vigorous process that would allow or not allow good ideas to come to fruition.
So what you're talking about is testing there, right? And so if you remember Simon Baker, he's literally been formerly CEO of one of the major portals in Australia, and I think he runs like something called Portal Watch these days and does a whole range of things. But it's interesting, when I first met him, I said to him, how do you make a decision about what business you get involved in? And he said, very simple. Can it do a minimum of $20 million in revenue? Is it scalable with technology? Is it scalable across multiple geographical locations? Is it floatable on the stock exchange? And then number 5, like literally, do I actually fundamentally get energized and love it? And if it doesn't meet those 5 criteria, I don't enter the business. And I was like, you know, and at the time, this is going back 15 years ago, and when I heard that, I was like, whoa, like, you know, how would you do that? Now I actually very much understand about like having a set of decision-making principles. So for example, you know, with most business owners, I go and have that conversation and say, hey, you know, what we've got to do is, and usually, you know, when someone's, you know, running a business is, first of all, how do I de-risk the business of the key person? And that's that problem. Like normally you're a bit of a founder startup. You know, you were similar to that. You were writing a large percentage of the revenue day one of kicking off Harris. How do I de-risk it so that no more than 25% of the revenue can be written by you? But so therefore I've got to have a sales team of 4 or 5 people around you straight away, not in your personal team, but, you know, more broadly to de-risk the business of that key person, and they need to be performing. The secondary part is it going to help us to grow? So this is going to be growth in market share. You know, so that's it. Growth in people, growth in revenue, growth in profitability, growth in margin. And that's a, you know, nice little set of conversations. Is it something that foundationally that then it's going to allow us to be able to scale our geographical reach as a brand? And then the final thing is it fun and exciting? You know, so we both have a really lovely friend in Martin Cooper, and Martin Cooper runs a very, very successful organization. And what you might realize is that like he's got a Mr. Whippy truck. Right, and I know that sounds funny, but I'm like, hey, Phil,
I didn't know that.
he does. So when you think about this, it's called Coffee and Cones, and what he does is he takes it to school fairs and charities, and takes it to, you know, big events and stuff around his area in Auckland, New Zealand, and they give coffee away and cones, which is ice cream, and so off the back of that, it's so good for the community, and anything they make out of the coffee sales or the ice cream sales, they give to the charity. So Martin effectively funds it. They still charge, but the money is then given to the charity, and that's how they actually go to do it. Now, when you go to think about that, it's a phenomenal community thing. It's amazing. It's branded Harcourt's Cooper & Co. Does its whole thing. It's phenomenal. Okay, great. So Phil, I got this opportunity for you, right? I got this big opportunity for you. On my way to the studio today, I saw this Mr. Whippy van, and I saw Harris Mr. Whippy all over it. What do you reckon? And so when you then run it through the profile, does it de-risk the business? Well, probably not. Secondary part, is it going to get us growth in market share? Maybe. Is it going to get growth in people? Is it going to get us growth in margins? Is it going to get us growth in profitability or sellable value? Probably not. Okay, great. Is it fun and exciting? It ticks like maybe 1 out of the 5 criteria. Yeah. So guess what, Phil? Unfortunately, the answer is no. Yeah. However, saying that, we can go and buy these 200 properties under management. Does it de-risk the business? Does it do all those things? Tick, 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 tick. And so when you get a clear set of decision criteria, it makes decisions easier. And I think that Ray Dalio was really good at that in his book Principles, because he would actually say it's either a yes or a no. It's not a maybe.
Yes.
So if you can't say yes immediately based on that criteria, then the answer is actually no. So stop massaging it to go and make it happen.
It's also, I think it's prolific in our industry, Josh, in terms of principles that just chase the next shiny star in their business and they don't stick to the core. The amount of principles that I have that would speak to me, Josh, and yourself about, I've got this idea to monetize in an adjoining adjacency space.
Yeah.
And I hear, like, this is constant all the time. And I go, okay, well, let me hear about the adjacency. Okay, well, yeah, well, great, that's good, but tell me this, though. You could just recruit or grow. We've had this conversation before.
One extra salesperson.
You could recruit one extra salesperson, which is like 5 times the profitability. There's one adjacency that you're going to go off and chase.
Yes.
And so it's interesting you spoke about rules of Simon before.
Yeah.
I have some pretty clear-cut rules in my opportunity criteria as well. And they're not documented, by the way, so I don't have kind of like 10 commandments written down.
You should do that.
Yeah. And you told me that before, but one of the things I don't do is like I right now in my business, like I don't invest in adjacencies. People ring me or contact me, Phil, do you want to invest in this portal? No. We've got an AI product coming up. Largely like it's a no. Why? I mean, you and I sat at dinner last night. We have so many deficiencies, or let's call them opportunities to improve our property management business.
Yeah.
We haven't got our sales management and sales growth, and they're the things that I'm actually good at. They're the things that I know. So why am I going to go venturing off down a Mr. Whippy truck or a new portal? Or
no offense to Martin, because he does a really good job of that.
Shout out to Martin. We love you, Martin.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was into coffees and cones. Coffees and cones in our northern office would get a different rap. But anyway, But yeah, so I have got some predefined rules. I think that our industry is completely distracted with chasing things that have no viability or impact on the actual business itself.
Yes.
But then I would say once a good opportunity, so that's the first thing, chasing the wrong opportunities.
Yes.
And then secondly, when the right opportunity comes along, now what's the right process to analyse the right opportunities?
So this is interesting because like Angus Ferguson, is a great conversationalist, and he said to me, one of the problems in the prop tech industry in Australia at the moment is that there's a lot of features that are actually products. And I'm like, well, tell me a bit more about that. So someone develops a product, but it actually should be a feature of your CRM. And so instead you're buying an add-on product that can do A, B, C. So this is interesting because when you use long-term thinking, and that's okay, great, and what are the answers you can easily answer? Would you like to own your own house? Yeah. Would you like $1 million in super? Yeah, sure. Would you like an investment property? Yeah, that'd be great. Do you want to be healthy when you retire? Yeah. Would you like to have some passions outside of your work? Yeah. Okay, great. Well, you can answer those questions really easy. So with a bit of long-term thinking, it can bring you back to being able to make easier decisions on the day-to-day. And this is interesting about that some of the big decisions that people have got to make. Where do you where do you want to live? Where do you want to work? The next conversation, okay, well, what do you want to do? Who do you want to actually marry? Are you going to buy into a business? Are you going to run a property management business? Are you only going to do sales? All of these big decisions have really big impactors on people further on down the line. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's not often that people probably really sit down and reflect on some of those of getting really clear on what they are and what does your decision-making process look like around them. I think they're really great things to sit down and work through slowly with those closest to you.
So, the interesting conversation, my dad tells the story. My dad's got 9 brothers and sisters in his family, right?
Wow. Catholic family?
Yeah, definitely Catholic, yeah. So they came from Brookvale, up near Manly. And so the way that I remember the story being told is that basically my grandpa and grandma literally looked at each other and said, it's going to be way too expensive to bring up 9 kids in Sydney. So let's just jump in a car and go as far as we can go, and wherever we land, that's where we're going to live. And so they drove as far as that statesman DeVille would go, and its tank got them to Albury, and that's how they decided to live there.
That was it. Yeah,
and so then literally, Dad tells the story that the 9 brothers and sisters were all sitting around the boardroom table, so to speak, and Albury Wodonga, it's a twin city, so Wodonga's on the Victorian side, Albury's on the New South Wales side, and Albury was always the much bigger one in terms of population up until more recently, and so it was the more developed one. It had the local cinema, it had a whole range of restaurants that Wodonga just didn't have at the time. And so, literally, when they made the decision to go and open the Wodonga office, they decided that my dad should do that. And I said to Dad, how did that decision actually happen? He said, well, your grandfather looked at me and he said, well, Brian, you're the first in the alphabet. You can do it. So it came down nothing to do with skill, desire, energy, any of those things. It was first in the alphabet was how that was made.
That was the decision-making matrix.
So when you start to think about how strategic we were, this is that whole conversation is that literally a little bit of strategy goes a long, long way to being able to live a really dynamic life. Principle, you set the vision. Now, Phil, this is a really interesting one because I think that I watch a lot of people where their vision gets diverted, based on who they marry or who they work for or, some of those things. And they never actually really think about them being inside of control. And maybe they don't have enough confidence to do that. Maybe they haven't read enough. Maybe they haven't developed themselves. Maybe they haven't got themselves into a position that they're above scarcity mode and they're actually now into being a bit more entrepreneurial in their approach. They really are worried about how they're going to pay for lunch this afternoon. And, we've all been there. But, this whole thing about it is that literally you've got to get yourself in a position that you can go to make some really good quality decisions. And I think, Damien Cooley tells the story of when he first started his auction business that, his biggest issue of the day was trying to work out how he could get some money to buy some bread and some chips to build a chip sandwich. That was where his thinking was. And now, wildly successful as an auctioneer, but the whole process is about, getting yourself into an entrepreneurial environment. Is that the role of where maybe mentors can help people that, they come from a different perspective, they're maybe coming from a different entrepreneurial place, and they can help you to see through what is respectfully small-mindedness and get you to open up, like a flower, literally being, rather than being tight, being open to new ideas and energy that can ultimately shift where you could go as a person and the type of things that you could go to achieve.
I think it is definitely about mentors and also, Josh, just opening yourself up to continual self-improvement, the people that you follow, the podcasts that you listen to. And the main thing you always hear from people is about having a bigger and better vision for your life. And I would definitely say that sometimes you need to have people in your life who prod you and push you who actually see a bigger vision for your life compared to what you see for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great old school saying that, what a great CEO does or a great leader does is that they see more in you than you see in yourself. So say, look, you've got all the foundations here. All I need you to do is just do that one thing, do it consistently over the course of the next 28 days, and you'll absolutely change the course of your business.
And then it's not also just about setting your vision, Josh, but it's also about constantly reflecting.
Yeah.
I think some of the basic tools that I have in my life, and my brother and I do this together every year in January. We sit down together and we spend half a day to a day, and we just revisit what are 1 year goals, 3 year goals, 10-year goals, long-term vision. And then you're reflecting on that kind of weekly and quarterly and constantly course correcting. So some great things there.
Feeling good and ready for more? Thanks for joining us
On Dream Big,
Move Fast.